Dear white female baby boomer, it's been a while since we've seen each other in person. Um, the last time I saw a lot of you was at my oldest son's baptism back in Arkansas. That was a while ago now. And prior to that, during the greatest day of my life, my wedding. Now that was a party. You would be so amused to see me now, trying to be the woman of the house, the daily struggle and hustle of converting my selfless tendencies into a fierce love and protective passion for my husband and our boys. To be honest, I've been meaning to drop you this note for many years, like 4, to be honest. Every time I start to put pen to paper, one of two things happen. One, my unconfirmed yet likely ADHD kicks in, or two, I stop. Because when it comes to this topic, I'm intrinsically programmed not to rock the boat. And have known me since I was a child, the latter is extremely uncharacteristic and frankly not in my nature. Hopefully that conveys how much I love and care for you. And if I had exercised that kind of caution in other areas of my life, many things might have gone differently. You initially became friends with my parents and my family via the usual work, neighborhood, school connection, but most likely, the most important one of all, the church. Your foundation and relationship with my parents can likely be referenced in 1 Peter 4, 8 through 10. I would consider your friendship with my parents to be authentic. I have many memories of you spending time at my home over one of my mother's many delicious meals, or as a child, I likely clocked some time at your house. And you and I also had some time to chat about my favorite subject at the time back then, me, particularly when I was an adolescent. But once I left the room, you adults eventually moved along to more adult conversations. While I wasn't there, you discussed it all: faith, family, friends, world events, and maybe some implied politics. Remember the old rule: no discussion about religion or politics. You also bought me some premium china for my wedding that I'm only now able to use since we're in a house. And you bought my children oodles of monogram clothing. Thanks for that. As I reflect upon these joyful memories today, there's a bittersweet tone given the state of the world. During the times you spent with my family, talking to my parents, you guys agreed about many things and disagreed about others, but this had nothing to do with your pigment, simply with your lived experiences as people and preferences on a human level. As you know, my family is an example of the American dream. My grandparents were born into sharecropping families in Alabama, but worked hard to set their children up for the career and spiritual success that they have achieved in their lives. We are likely the first Black people that you actually know. My grandparents, who saw people hanging from trees and had to relocate to Chicago literally for the sake of their lives, spent the first half of their earthly existence being treated with hostility by people of your ilk. Given that fact, who would have thought that their children would belong to the same churches and country clubs and attend the same private schools as the offspring of these, for lack of a better term, perpetrators? Who would have thought that their grandchildren would lovingly refer to these people as aunt and uncle and other terms of endearment that, quite frankly, transcend outward appearance? This is the fruit of the work done by the greatest generation and the baby boomer generation, in my opinion. No one expected for change to be immediate. It was done incrementally, like most monumental events in the history of the world. As the late, great Queen Elizabeth II, who I miss, once said, "It's worth remembering that it is often the small steps, not the giant leaps, that bring about the most lasting change." I wish someone would have given Harry and Meghan that memo. Listen, I know I'm rambling here, and I've attempted to write down my thoughts to be clearer, so let me cut to the chase. My feelings are hurt. Why? I think you know why. Your head has been in the sand from where I sit, and your silence has been complicity, which has turned into acceptance, which has turned into a new normal of sorts, which I refuse to accept. By the way, not all of it is silence. I mean, some of you guys have been spotted over the past few years walking around with fangirl jewelry, touting the name of a certain particular cult leader politician. Others of you have posted untrue, poorly sourced, ignorant things on your social media channels. All of you at some point have done these things using alleged faith as an element of your reasoning. Listen, I know this is not top of mind for you. That doesn't make you a bad person, by the way. If I were in your shoes, I would likely be the same way that I am probably right now, currently blind to or unaware of things that don't immediately affect me. It's called being human. One of my favorite lines in the movie Guess Who's Coming to Dinner is, what happens to men when they get older? To be honest, I feel that way about your demographic. What's happened? You know me, you know my family. We are not the type of people who consider ourselves to be victims or constantly view things through the lens of race. However, we are people who will always tell you the truth and seek to be the resource for those questioning things they are uncomfortable saying to others. Given that, why didn't you stand up? Why didn't you? Your second or third home is in Florida. You knew that what that governor was capable of when you went to that ballot box years ago. You claim to love me and love my boys, so why would you ignore and perpetuate an environment that is decidedly more unsafe for them? And listen, that's not hyperbole or exaggeration, that is fact. Now that Pandora's box has seemingly been opened, why don't you just have the humility to stop the literal bleeding? Did you ever think we'd live in a 2023 where, for example, if you Google it, a black mayor was voted in a small town, he was elected mayor, and then the literal Old Boys Network denied his chance of doing that? Or is it normal that domestic terrorists increasingly cite racist manifestos quoting certain political leaders? Do you think these things appeared out of nowhere, most importantly? Do you believe that slavery was a good training opportunity for blacks? Is that something you taught your children and I just wasn't aware of because they love us too? Where in the Bible does it say that we are not to hold each other accountable as Christians? Candidly, I intuitively knew that you might have leaned towards this ideology, but I thought that I would take a patient and measured approach to these matters, given your association with my family and understanding the importance of these things on a human level. Listen, I know that things look and feel different than they did when you were growing up. I agree wholeheartedly that millennials and Gen Z people have taken their compassion about certain people and topics entirely too far. I mean, please see Israeli-Hamas war. I mean, that's been ridiculous. But when did it become okay not to discuss our feelings at all? As the eclectic Mr. Chow, yes, that Mr. Chow, once said, the problem with racism is that it hurts. As I build my life out here in the suburbs again, this time as a mommy and a wife, in an affluent, predominantly white area, not unlike where I grew up, albeit in a different part of the country, I find myself overcome by an unfamiliar layer of distrust from my peers that I would have found unthinkable years ago, quite frankly. Don't worry, I pushed that back down into my subconscious, as Black women have done for centuries, but I don't like it. You know, David Brooks, one of my favorite, and I think one of the great thinkers of our time, once said, "The world is immeasurably complex, and the private stock of reason is small." My dear auntie, baby boomer, I would like to think that we can come together, talk, reason, and simplify our corner of the world for the greater good. That's really all I have to say, other than I still love you.